Sports Around the Corner. Former Baylor receiver but sideline reporter Ricky Thompson with us, and he has experienced the Texas-Baylor rivalry in the past. Ricky, what was that like for you?
I don't know, Smokey, it was a lot of fun. It was always a special game on our part. I think at times they claimed it wasn't on theirs, but it always was. And everybody in my era always goes back, which unbelievably is almost 50 years now. That sounds harsh, but to 74 and what that game meant, and the fact that that win on a drizzly day propelled us to a conference championship. And then we go back to 13 and the win over Texas to cut out the lights and win the championship. Just there have been so many big games like that. Robert's big game, Griffin against Texas, 48-24 win there. And then the guys here in Waco with a big win when Lovett shoved the guy into the ground, the Texas defender. There's so many different memories of those games, and I'm sure this will be one for a lot of reasons, particularly the fact that it may be the last one. And who knows where that goes in the future as far as scheduling. I know that either Texas or Baylor probably won't be in a hurry to schedule that game going forward.
Yeah, Ricky, I'm not sure who it benefits right away, and when they would do that in the coming years, which is kind of a bummer when you see such a long time matchup going away. But how do they get some of that Miracle in the Brazos juice into this team that, look, they got the win last week, but they're still, it just feels like there's a lack of oomph behind them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think in the case in 74, I don't think at the time a lot of people thought we were going to beat them, but I think we did. We thought we were pretty good at that time. We'd had some wins on the road, had beaten Arkansas on the road, and played very well at number 1 Oklahoma in the first game. So we thought we had capabilities. We thought we were pretty good. And the other side of that, I think, we had some confidence going into that game because of some previous wins over good teams like Arkansas on the road in Fayetteville. And if you've ever been there to play a game on the road, that's a really tough place to win. So I think maybe confidence might be the difference in those two teams. But I'm telling you, just one win in the right ball game can turn the confidence factor around in a hurry.
Ricky, what did you make of the offense last week, and do you think any of that attention, particularly to the running game, is something that carries over in any way? Obviously, Long Island's defense is nothing compared to especially the front of Texas they're about to face, but getting a Dawson Pendergrass going, getting a Richard Reese going, how beneficial, if at all, is that to what they're going to be doing moving forward?
Well, I think it's beneficial, and I think they're going to have to get them going. I don't think they're going to have a choice but to get those guys going in some form or fashion. And I think we've seen that we can't be completely dependent on the passing game. Sawyer is inexperienced. We know that. I think he's struggled at times. I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him, but he's still a young guy. And with this Texas front coming after our offensive line in a big way, I think you're going to have to take some of that pressure off with maybe some outside quick screens or throwing the ball in some form or fashion, maybe to open that running game up. And I think Sawyer's going to have to play better, and I sure think he's capable of that. But I think we have to get the outside guys involved. I thought we would do that last week, but I think it just came down to a matter of the running game was working. We were running the clock. We felt like we were going to win the game that way, and I think we just stuck to it. And it was kind of fun to watch those guys. Pendergrass, he really, I think some of y'all may have talked about it, but I really think a lot of his success is based on his vision. I think the guy really has great vision, a little bit like Abram Smith. He doesn't have the speed that Abram Smith had or the one-step cut on the wide zone, but if you notice some of the cuts he made before he got to the line of scrimmage and he was running to air. And I thought that was really impressive on his part, particularly by a true freshman. But I think to get him going this week, you're going to have some success, to the guys outside.
I want you to, what you brought up about Dawson, we are up in the press box near what is the north end zone. And there was a play. It was a simple play. It was zone read. It was probably off left guard or in between the guard and tackle. And what you just said, I remember all of a sudden he just found like a sliver. It wasn't a big hole, but he found the hole. He could have run into the back of an offensive lineman. So I'm glad you brought that up because I did notice him finding that little extra, as you said, air to get some extra yards in a run.
Yeah, Smokey, and I don't think that's something you can teach. I mean, you try to teach running backs to run off this guard's hip, off this tackle's hip. Here's the cut that we want you to make. But the cut that they always want you to make is sometimes not there. And a guy has to react to that and think about how fast the play happens and how quickly you have to recognize that error. And I think one of those that you may have been speaking about was his touchdown run that I thought was stopped at the line of scrimmage. He makes a cut behind the line of scrimmage and goes in untouched. And this is not a guy with blazing quickness or speed. Now, I certainly wouldn't want to get in front of him because he would run me over in about 2 seconds. But for a big guy like that to have that type vision, only a true freshman, I just think he's got an outstanding future ahead of him.
Ricky Thompson, Baylor Sports Radio Sideline Reporter.
Ricky, obviously we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with every individual player and whatnot, but in your experience, I know also some of this comes down to quarterback play, and Sawyer clearly still hobbled. You could see some of his passes just sort of dying in the air last week. But how do you get Monterey Baldwin going for a team that desperately needs some playmakers and doesn't have a lot of experience? I mean, he's a guy that could boost both of those categories, but, not knowing the full story of just where he is and all of that, how do you get this guy going?
Well, I agree. We don't know the whole story. We don't know the practice history. We don't know the off-the-field history. We don't know all of that. But to me, with a guy with that kind of speed at some point in the football game, particularly this one, I think you got to send the kid deep. I know in most occasions he's in the slot, but there are a lot of ways to get to the deep route out of the slot. Even, for instance, if you run a hitch outside, bring the corner up. He's automatically going to come hard if he sees his guy run a hitch. Then you man up inside on that, whether it be corner or safety, whatever it is. If it's Monterey out there, surely they'll have a corner. And then you just run sort of a fade out of that inside spot. But you just tell Monterey Baldwin, just run as fast as you can, and we're going to throw it out there and go get it. And we've seen the dude can run. I just think you've got to get him downfield some. He's, 170 pounds maybe? And a lot of these crossing routes, I mean, you see him kind of looking around, which I don't blame him if I'm that size. But I think the key to Monterey is to get him a touch and for it to be something deep. And I think not only would that be good for him, what would it add to this offensive football team just to hit a deep ball? And frankly, I think that's one of Sawyer's better throws. If you watch his deep ball, the nose really turns well. It's an easy ball to catch. He's good at getting up in the air and letting guys run under it. I think that would hit a strength of both Monterey and Sawyer to just get him deep a couple of times this ball game, and if nothing else, back those guys off.
Yeah, I think you're right, and he does throw the deep fade. His one pass against Texas State when he came in, he threw a fade down the sideline on the far sideline that was beautiful, that looked like it was going to give Baylor a little bit of a spark. Last thing for you, it is going to be it's sold out. It's not a surprise. Texas will have a ton of burnt orange in the stands too. Can you sense the difference early in a game of what kind of a crowd, a locked-in crowd it might be or not?
Yeah, I think you can. I thought early on before the weather, considering Long Island game after a loss to Utah, actually the crowd was pretty good. I don't think there was a ton of fire or excitement there, but I thought the crowd was pretty good. This one will be different. I think it'll be that way when these teams take the field an hour before kickoff. I do know everybody I know that's Baylor folks are going. I mean, I don't think anybody's cutting out of this one. They'll be there. There will be a lot of Texas folks there. I mean, when you've got 60,000 students and however many thousands of alumni, and you're number 3 in the country, they're going to be there. I mean, we've seen times when they didn't show up, but it's generally when they knew they were going to get beat. So they'll be there, and it'll be a huge crowd. It'll be really loud, and I think that's good for our guys. I think it will help them. I think they'll play better in that regard. I think our fans will be fired up, and these are the ones you want. If you're a player, these are the games you want, whether they're at home or on the road. Big games like this, and if these kids can't get excited and play hard in this one, I don't know what'll do that. But I'm just guessing that throughout this week that they've been talked to about this atmosphere, but it's different walking out there and feeling it. And I bet that they really play hard. I can tell you from experience, just the first time I walked into RFK on a Monday night football game playing Dallas, and you go out an hour before kickoff and it's already full, the adrenaline starts going. So I just expect these guys will have a little bit more juice in them when this game starts than what we've seen in this first 3.
Thank you, Ricky. Appreciate your time. Ricky Thompson, brought to you by Alliance Bank, Central Texas, former Baylor receiver and sideline reporter. Up next, Mac.